Got any questions at any point, just ask me, just interrupt me and ask me. Hopefully answer anything. Okay, so first turn the machine on. Down here underneath you've got a main isolator. Main isolator switch and an air valve, so if you leave your air on all the time, if it gets turned off at night, that's fine. But if you, first thing is turn the machine on, isolator there, and this little digital screen will power up and load up the data.
What's the air need to be at?
6.5 bar. Yeah. I think you've got just over 6, which you should do. Yeah, you get 6.5. So when it first powers up, so it's going to say open or close the cowling before resetting, and that's asking to open and close the hood. Just every time it turns on, it needs to know what position it's in. So it wants to see an open and a close of the hood. So you want, could you just open and close it, please? Yes. If you just lift it up. Yeah. No, you just have to. Yeah, you don't have to go all the way, but yeah, that's fine. And once you close it, it comes up with E1 reset. Now E1 reset, it basically means you've got no power to anything in there, and to do anything you need to have the white light on. Pretty similar to your CNC. I think you've got like, it's called your, it might call it your power button or your auxiliary button, but yeah, you need this on to do anything. So as soon as you press that, where it said E1, that'll disappear. And you hear the movements of the units inside. That's just doing a full cycle of movement, so it knows its position. It's making sure all the sensors are working. So yeah, we've got power on there. If you can't get power on, it's going to be one of a couple of things. It's either going to be the E-stop's pressed, there's one here and there's one on the end of the machine. Your compressed air is not turned on, or inside the electrical cabinet there will be overload which is tripped. But if it's any of those, you'll get a message on here saying lack of compressed air or emergency button pressed. And that'll prevent you from getting that white light on. So at the moment, the default on the screen, you've got measured temperature in degrees, which is 24. Now that's the temperature of the glue pot in there, so that's its current temperature. So what we want to do, we want to turn the glue pot on, we want to get up to temperature, which will probably take about 10 minutes or so. To do that, this icon up here with the ball with the heat waves coming out of it, that's your glue pot. So if I press that once, it'll go to working temperature. And the other side here says 190, so that's aiming for 190 degrees. If I pressed it again, it goes to standby temperature, which is 150. So if you're about to go for smoko, you can set it to standby temperature. It won't cool all the way down. It'll only go to 150. It's just made, it's just easy to get back up to working temperature. But at the moment, and then it'll cycle to off. So if I press it again, it'll go to working temperature. So now it's aiming for 190 degrees, and the light's flashing, showing you it's waiting. It's working and waiting to get up to that temperature. The other buttons we've got here. So the first one is a coiled edging, which is what you're probably going to be using all the time. Coiled edging 1 and 2 millimeters. So if you press that, the light will come on. What that does, it just lets the machine know that you're using a coiled edge tape and you're going to be using a guillotine. It activates the guillotine and the tape feed in there, just so it knows what kind of edging you're doing. On this machine as well, you could do lip-ins 1 to 3 millimeters, but I doubt you're going to be doing that from what we've said. But you can set it to do that. To use that, you have to turn the coiled edge off, put the solid edge on.
So that you're doing like flitches?
Yeah. Yep. So all it does, it's you'd have to cut the solid wood to length or 30mm over length. And all that's doing is disabling the guillotine, because it's not going to try and cut through the wood with a guillotine, so you have to cut the clashing to length basically. But,
and you just manually place them each time?
Yeah, you have to manually cut them, and you can you have to feed them in one by one. It's so it's a bit of a long-winded process, but it's not as machine designed.
What about if you buy solid in a 2mm roll, which you can get?
Yeah, you can get on a roll. Then
so the
guillotine, because it is a coiled edge, it's got that flexibility. The guillotine will be able to cut through it.
Yeah.
It's more if, like say, if you're doing actual solid wood and it's going to coil, it's a bit softer because it's got that flexibility in it.
Yeah.
It's basically just a guillotine, which is not operating. But most of the stuff you can be doing is 1 and 2 mil PVC tape, so we'll leave it on the coiled edge. Some of the ones on here don't work, they're just on there for different models. So for instance, this one doesn't light up. You can't do anything above 3 millimeters. Next one down is a picture of a saw doing a flush cut. So that sets your end trim saw to flush cut front and back of the panel. So you have a flush cut on your tape. The other option is with this, the blade has got a radius on it as well. So if we turn this off, select that one, well it'll come down in the same motion, but to expose a different part of the blade, which has put I think it's a 2 millimeter radius on there. And
We asked for not having that blade.
Not having it, so you just wanted flush cuts all the time.
Yeah.
That's fine then, you just keep it as flush cut.
So, but
Yeah, I think as standard, this unit comes with a
yeah, but we asked specifically to have a different saw on there, so we weren't mucking around with the radius.
okay. Well, you can just leave it like that.
Yeah,
I don't.
more about long-term costs, sharpening, things like that.
You have to speak to. Would you go through Daniel? Was it?
Yeah.
Speak to Daniel about that. Then. Yeah. I don't know what was in the sale. It might be that's the standard blade which comes with it. It might not be a flush blade, which comes with it. But yeah, you have to speak to Daniel about that.
So it's definitely the radius one on there
It's flush and radius.
at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be.
Okay. Yeah, have a chat with Daniel and see what he says. Yeah, that just enables you to put a radius down the edge if you want it. Next icon down is your pre-millers. So pre-millers, in there, I'd recommend using those whenever you're using the machine. It just gives you a nice, solid, clean finish on the edge of the panel. For your tape going on, so you're not having chipping of the panel or your melamine. It saves you buzzing the boards before you go on there.
So is that preset to a depth?
Yeah, so I'll go through that in a second.
Sure.
It is preset at the moment. The other two buttons here which don't work, that's for buffing unit which aren't fitted and a grooving unit which aren't fitted, so those buttons don't do anything. Down here you've got your start and your stop button, so at the moment the machine's not running. When this gets up to temperature, you'll be able to start the machine. At the moment it won't do anything because this is still flashing because we're waiting to get up to a temperature on here. So yeah, once that gets up to temperature, this goes solid. It'll actually go solid at 180, so you can start the machine running at 180 degrees. You'll be able to start this and you'll hear the motors run up on the trimmers and the pre-millers, and then the stop button for when you want to stop the program. Once the machine is running, this is lit up, you'll be able to start the track feed, and that will light up, and that means once that's lit up, the track's going and you're ready to put panels in.
What's this one here?
This one is stop to knock the power off, so that knocks the air out of it, and it'll stop heating up. I know it's still going heating up for now. Yeah, whenever the machine's on, it's usually going to be in this state.
Yeah.
The black button, like I say, it knocks all the air off, but also allows you access into the back of the machine. So at the moment, with the white light on, it's locked in place. You can't open it.
I see.
When you press that, there's a 20-second delay on it. So after 20 seconds, you'll be able to open the hood.
Yeah.
Right then, so what we'll do, first of all, we'll start from this end of the machine and we'll work our way down. We'll go through each of the units inside. We're starting from here. You've got a winder here for your panel thickness. So at the moment 18.3, because the board I was using last week is 18.3, just got your vernier on it. There's a bit of tolerance, like a 0.5 mil tolerance, but try and get as close as possible to the board which you're doing. That'll go, the machine will go down to 8 millimeters and up to 51 millimeters. Table for your cold edge, we'll go through changing this once we change tapes a few times. We'll start with the in-feed fence here. Now this is a fixed, and like you're saying, for your pre-millers, they're set, you can't adjust those. So at the moment, the machine's set to take 2mm off every panel which goes in it. So what you can do, if you want to say, you want to take 1mm off, a set of shims here, to insert on that fence. And if you see here, they're all etched. Now this value here is how much you will take off the panel with this insert in place. So if I put the 1mm insert in here, the thin edge goes into the machine, and the ridges there, they go downwards, slide in there, and they will fall onto the studs in there.
Simple.
It's on a magnet as well, so it will be just staying there. Just make sure it's on the two lugs here,
Yeah.
and that will set it on its set it against the pre-millers.
Too easy.
Yeah, so if you don't want to take anything off, stick the 0mm shim in there. So just don't touch the pre-millers. Although I'd always recommend using the pre-millers just because it does give you a better finish for your board and your glue.
So if you put a piece through
Yeah,
and the edge didn't take, like it didn't
Yeah.
pick up the edge,
yeah.
can you put that back on and run it through and it won't mill?
As in it won't take the edge because... As in it won't take the tape?
Yeah,
So
so
you've lost 2 mil already when you've
Yeah.
milled it.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you want to keep your panel thickness or minimise how much you take off, can you put that on to reduce the amount that you're milling off?
Yeah.
And then feed it back through. That's
Yeah.
what you mean, isn't it, Jody?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
suppose it's already radiused the board and it's stuffed.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually I say if you're here, you'll be able to see this tape start to move around if you're taking the tape. Yeah, obviously if you're taking 1 mil off, then it'll for you to take that 1mm off, and then you will obviously put a bit of a radius on your board, depending on what section you're going. If you're taking 2 mil off, you'll have quite a big radius on there.
What happens if somebody hasn't turned on the milling head and they feed it through?
It'll just roll against the pre-miller. So you probably have a couple of marks on your board, just where the blades of the tips of the core blocks are just rolled around.
Yeah.
They hold it off too,
Yeah.
like an
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
It won't force the board out because the pre-miller is on a rocker system, so both heads are fixed. But it's on a rocker system, so I'm not sure which way in resting position it's spring loaded. It's probably rested so the front one's forward. So yeah, it's just going to roll. It's going to roll the blocks basically.
The reason I ask is because learning institution, what tends to happen
Yeah,
is
yeah.
people miss steps and
Yeah.
you know, accidents happen. You know, correct procedures aren't followed, and then it all turns to custard.
I just get in a habit of always having your pre-millers on.
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
Even if you've got the 2mm shim in there,
Yeah.
just get a habit of just keeping that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
the
Yeah.
button on.
No, that's
yeah,
all good.
I'd always recommend pre-milling, but even if you're just taking one, you know, it depends how you're going to work it. If you're going to obviously it comes off the CNC or you cut it to final size, are you taking 1 mil off with that and put 1 mil on with the tape to keep your size, or you know, it all depends how you want to work it, or
Yeah.
how it comes off the CNC. Yeah, everyone who's got one of these machines keep everyone pre-use pre-milling.
Oh yeah. That's a good feature.
Better finish. So yeah, from the outside, you can set your size and set how much your pre-millers take off. What we'll do before it gets too hot, we'll knock it off. And we'll go inside the machine and we'll go through each unit inside the machine.